Hello everyone, my name is Decalink the Trained Unprofessional, and welcome back to Regal Tales. On the last episode, we were following... Oh, that's actually something I wanted to start with, because I got some shit. So, in the last two episodes, we had a little bit of fun at the pronunciation of a few names. The creators sent me messages telling me what they thought of the stream, but also telling me how to actually say shit. The three that they sent me were of the main character, name spelled N-A-J-A. I had been saying Naya, as in N-A, and then soft J, as in like Johann, Johannesburg, Naya. It's pretty much a Y. That's what I'd been doing because Naja didn't really... that didn't sound right to me. But... Frosty Talents is already there in the chat. Magina. We're getting to that one. That is one of them. But apparently, according to this... Okay, so they sent two with the same names, but the first one, apparently they got wrong. Because at first they said it was supposed to be Na, and then they said G-A, which would be Ga. And I was like, how the fuck is it Naga? But then they fixed it and resent it, where it's supposed to be Na-Ja. Not Naja, Na-Ja. N-A-W-J-A-W. Na-Ja. Naja. So I guess we'll make that transition. I like Naya better, personally, but there's no way in fuck that would have been the intended way to say it, because no one sane would think to use a silent J in the middle of a name like that. And have that be their main character in a game and expect people to get that. So, yeah, so it's going to be Naja from now on. Moving on. Next is the tribe's name, which because there's two, it's spelled S-H-A-R-S-K-A-R-R-A. I had been jokingly calling it Sharskara, but here's how it's actually supposed to be said. Sherskara. Sherskara. Not Shar, Share. Sherskara. Again, I like Shaskara better, but because that's Shaskara, it just rolls a little better. But they did say something about like not knowing how these things will sound until someone else says them out loud. But author's intentions, it's Sherskara, 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 Sherskara. And lastly, we got the daughter's name, spelled M-I-G-I-N-A. Ooh. When you first see it, it looks like Mygina or Me-Gina or something. So, fuck's sake. But apparently, it is not Mygina. And apparently, saying Mygina got them a little huffy because they did the, series of emojis at me. I'm like, Jesus, I'm sorry. But it's supposed to be meh, and they put G-E, which I imagine to be G, but I would put G-E-E to emphasize it's a long E, but Magina. Magina. Magina, Gina. So yeah, it's Naja, Sherskara, and Magina. Now that we have established this, we may continue the episode. Who the fuck is Jeremy? I don't know who Jeremy is. I've not met one nice Jeremy yet. Jeremy crosses the threshold to the Imperial camp, being greeted by Imperial sentinels. They waste no time and go directly to the Emperor. Inside his private tent, the Emperor and his officers all huddled around a war map. Once Jeremy entered in, everyone's attention fully snapped on him. Okay, so that is Jerry, not Jeremy. It was Jerry before, now it's Jeremy. And also it turns out that this guy, Jerry, is actually, if you go back to the first episode, they have like the 3 picture credits. He's one of the people that worked on this game. And he was also fucking sending me messages on Twitter. Want to know when I was streaming and shit. I told him I was streaming today. Apparently he wanted to, he was asking questions. So shout out to Jerry. And shout out to all of Brazil. You're back! Yeah. What news do you have for us? Did they do anything to you? Jeremy paused with a sigh after being cut off so frequently. The font is so small, and it's almost the same color as the border. It's hard to read. I would love to see in an update they make the font a little bigger and a little more brighter. That would be lovely. But I said the same shit about extracurricular activities, that their font was too small, and ain't shit gonna be done about it. I'm just blind, so it's just not gonna be good for me. It's gonna be difficult to read, but everything is so fucking pretty to look at that it's fine. Speak up, lad! The enemy's literally on a toe right now! Jeremy holds up a finger to hold a word in the conversation. I don't think the enemy is the right word to describe them, at least in this case anyway. Everyone stared quizzically at him. How do you mean? Well, they really are more friendlier than most we've encountered. Everyone in the tent throws a morbid look his way. Friendlier? Friendlier how? He got a boner. He got a boner. The young knight recounts his brief time with the mighty lioness. Every word, every touch, and every smell she shared with him. The thought of her touch alone made him start to fumble at his words. You see, Lady Nadja presented herself. No, I mean, held herself in such a manner I didn't find threatening. The Emperor holds his paw in front of his face. Lady Nadja, you say? Who is she? To Sherskara. It's gonna take some adjusting. It's like if you meet someone and you find out their name is one thing, but it turns out their name's another thing. Trying to make that transition is fucking impossible. So bear with me, please. And yes, Jeremy was originally Jerry. I don't know what the fuck happened. A messenger? Officer what? She shows herself to be the leader of them all, my lord. She wishes to have a word with you. Does she now? And I suppose the entire Sherskaran war party is just her entourage. Yes, now that we're on that topic, what did a lineup consist of? More infantry, archers, cavalry? Oh, their lineup? Jeremy's body stiffened up after recollecting his time with the Sherskarans. God damn it, how the fuck was it said? Sherskarans. It makes it sound like there's a pause in the middle of the name, man. I don't like it, but I gotta do it. Memories of all the Sherskaran men and women looting over him, making his cheeks flush. The men were what? Looting over him. Looting. That is a verb now. His tail starts to coil around his waist with a nervous fidget breaks out from his leg. With a nervous twitch. His legs start to fidget under his armor. Spit out already! What happened again? What are they packing? Oh, they were packing something, all right. Both the general and the emperor rubbed their eyes in annoyance, all while the lieutenant snickered to himself. All right, said Jeremy, that'll be enough for now. Indeed, lieutenant. Yes, see to it that Jeremy makes it to the wash house. Don't even bother stripping him down. Just toss a cold bucket of water on him for now. It'll be an honor, my lord. Come along, lady killer. The towering bull pats Jeremy on the shoulder and motions him to follow. Jeremy, however, trots forward just about to the Emperor. He held his own tail on both paws as he did so. I'll be on my horse, ready to be at your beck and call, sire. You're still getting a cold shower, lad. Jeremy. When did he turn into Jeremy? Jeremy grip on his tail lightened. A mournful groan bellows from his chest once the dread of a cold shower sunk in. Do I have any writing advice? Write all the time! Don't ever stop writing! You ever want to be good at something? You gotta work at it day in and day out, buddy! You gotta do it when you're sleeping! You gotta do it when you're eating! You gotta do it in every waking moment! You gotta do it in between meals! You gotta do it at the dinner table! You gotta write everything down, sucker! Fuck. You gotta know what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're doing it at. You gotta do everything. You gotta write stories. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into one genre. Write fiction, write non-fiction, write fantasy, write sci-fi, write western, write love stories, write horror stories, write every kind of story, write a VHS handbook, write a documentary, write everything. You gotta write everything you can write, and at that point, you can call yourself a writer, but until then, buddy, you are just an artist in the working. You gotta work hard, you gotta work tirelessly, you gotta do it hard, you gotta do it every day, you gotta do it all the time, daddy. That's what the fuck you want with advice? Advice for writing? That's a fucking my writing advice. Right the hell, that's what that is.
Yes, sire. At once.
Marn Guilds guides Jeremy out of the tent, leaving only Solaire and Pax. That was enlightening.
Of all the years we've had him speak on the Empire's behalf, never have I seen him so flustered.
Solaire drinks from the goblet in mid-thought. Well, seeing how the war propagates the Sherskarans, for being the most mightiest and most seductive of anyone in the war, I think fate drew us to the seductive route with them. Jesus.
If this is the case, I feel sorry for Jeremy then. He most likely never stood a chance with them.
It makes perfect sense in this situation. We'd be stained in blood by now if this party was out to overpower us. They're going for a more close and personal approach, it seems. This war may have just made them desperate enough to try this approach on us.
As much as I would love to poke holes into that strategic logic of yours, desperate times would call for desperate measures. Especially with that lioness was wearing.
The Emperor throws a weak laugh out before drowning himself with his goblet. Tempting. Very tempting. It'll break her heart once she figures out I took a vow of celibacy, to swear myself to no one until this war is done. Quite the ill fate for a seductress. Ill fate indeed. The general shakes his head in bemusement to the emperor mocking decree. He rubbed his eyes with his talons and sighs.
Shut up.
What? I take my vows seriously.
Yes, it acts as the perfect defense whenever an arranged marriages come up.
Well, that is one of the benefits to the vow, and you are correct on that part.
Nadja woman brought her entire clan as a gift just to propose to you. Do you truly think the mighty Sherskaran warlords will surrender their army for a chance in your pants? Chance in your pants, chance in your pants.
Oh, what? The official Twitter account for Regal Tales sent me a message asking what the fuck I was ranting about. The Emperor thinks on the concept briefly, takes another sip from his goblet, then shrugs. What, you don't think highly enough of your Emperor to achieve such a feat?
No, I'm just imagining all those lovely suitors we've allied during the war. How distraught do you think they'll all be if you went and chose a savage over them?
I'm more tempted to speak with this Nadja more and more now.
Oh, that is simply cruel. Are you the desperate one here?
I don't care how long it takes to find a queen. I'm not going to be wrangled in by these petty traditions every kingdom seems to follow.
None of whom we saw ticked your fancy?
No! Half of them were already old and barren. We couldn't have a child even if we tried. And the rest were still children in their own rights. Solera takes a rough chug of his drink and empties his goblet. The Empire will be called many things after this war is finished, but I'll be damned if it's remembered like that. General Pax sips on his own drink, chuckling softly at the Emperor's expense.
What of that, Captain Pelka's daughter? She's the ripe age, last I remembered. Ripe. Ugh.
Magina. Yeah, I remember. I know it was Magina, man. Trying to get me in trouble. I'm getting pronunciation tips on Twitter. They just said, also, just pronounce the tribe however you like. God damn it. I appreciate it, though. I'm going to try to do it right. But thanks. The ball, Captain? We've seen firsthand how they eat. We would have to reinforce the entire dining room with their aggressive eating habits.
But she's the only princess that meets your age requirement, my lord.
If we can even call her a princess. You have the best eyes out of all of us, but not even you could tell the difference between the men and women at that dinner party.
No, no, no. I only had one drink beforehand. I told you this. It was really dark. There were bubbles and wine, and
both broke out into laughter. Neither could bear how ridiculous it was to go with from war tactics to this. Pax was the first to collect himself. Oh, jeez. Oh, fuck.
Shall we get going, my lord? We don't want to keep your next suitor waiting.
Shut up. Jesus. Oh, damn. Meeting across a river. Naja stood idly by her banner while conversing with members of her tribe. Her small talk was cut short by the blasting sound of drums squawking from the forest. Squawk! Ah! That's a great war cry right there. A massive formation of knights on horseback trots out in rows. The green fields overseeing the forest were quickly overtaken by legions of shining armored knights. It only took a fraction of the Emperor's forces to take up the entire green field. What was supposed to be an act of showing the might of the Empire through numbers alone, Naja nor anyone else seemed to be fazed by how many Imperials stood before them. As long as everyone had hope in Naja, they would never express fear. The second orchestra of every soldier combs open. All of the soldiers comb open a gap in the formation and making way for the second legion of knights. These knights were more decorated than the rest. These were the elite knights to the Emperor, and in the center of them all was the Emperor himself. He and his commanding officers strode to the front of the formation. With a simple flick of his wrist, the Emperor silenced the drums, and in its wake, a collective roar tore across the Imperial Legion. Every man and woman of numerous races cried out in glorious chant of the name of their Emperor. The Emperor and his men strolled out towards the open field in shouting distance to Naja and her tribe. Solera turns his attention back to his adoring men, ready to do battle for him at a moment's notice. He holds a finger to his lips as if shushing the crowd. He did so, in fact. Everyone silenced themselves at a whim of the Emperor. A sly smirk tugged at his lips by doing so. Solera brings his attention back to the opposing side, catching a glimpse of the banner Naja had planted. To whom do I have the pleasure of speaking with? From the look of your banner, you are the infamous Shirkoi clan, no? Naja cackles as she shouts back to her clansmen. Hear that, boys? The mighty Empress called us infamous. The clansmen hooted and hollered at the compliment. Knowing how the highborns greet one another, Naja mockingly bows and gestures around while addressing the Emperor. Why, yes, you guessed it. You also have the honor of meeting its Grand Chief, Naja. Just Naja? Naja nods with pride in her voice. Surnames hold no meaning to us. To carry a name built off the legacy of others is pointless. Just because you come from a name doesn't mean you should instantly earn the respect placed into it. You make a name of your own, or none at all. The Emperor nods thoughtfully to Naja words. But I must say, you are making a name for yourself pretty well. Here I'd thought you'd have pussyfooted your way out like all the other highborns, but here you are. And here I am. And here we go! Here we go! So what business do you want of me? You wish to negotiate with me, did you not? Naja's amused expression darkens into a psychotic grin. Oh, I've got a deal, all right. I aim to end this war. Solaire arches a brow at the comment, with hope lighting up in his eyes. Oh, do you now? Well, I'm all ears. Spit it out then, my dear. Well, it's simple, really. I'm gonna take your head! A commotion erupts in the Imperial formation, voicing the outcries to Naja. The Emperor holds his palm up to silence them. Hope leaves his eyes, with dread floods into them. I challenge you to single-handed combat. Give this war a satisfying end. Take up your arms and fight for once. Not with others, not with tricks, but with honor in your veins. The taunting roars of the Shirkoi leaves the Emperor unfazed. His golden eyes sternly stare off at Naja. It's been no. The Shirkoians are an ambitious clan. I would never expect it to be this ambitious, though. What makes you think I'd ever accept a savage arrangement in the first place? We would kill you now if your names would be left in the dirt you stand on. The Shirkoians fall silent as Naja strives out closer to the Emperor. She looks down on Solaire with her head held high. The fact that you are here and not behind some walls says something about you. The fact that you are knee-deep into enemy lines show that you are someone who fights with his own mauler and hunts resolve. The Emperor is taken back from the lioness's words. This war has taken everything from us. Our dignity, our honor, our friends, and our families. Everything! And for what? In the name of a half-witted ruler. Why waste a life on such a thing? 'Cause they have special blood? 'Cause of a stupid name they hold? No! Solaire starts brushing his mane in thought of her words. We're sick of it! Sick of all this bullshit! We're finished seeing the world blindly. We're finished seeing this world blindly follow false leaders. Here, we follow the strongest, most noblest of warriors. Naja points vigorously at the Emperor's head. And that is why I want your head. The biggest, most infamous highborn this war has ever seen can end this war in an instant. Not only will this war end, but my people will cease to be used by cowardice highborns like you. Shirkoi clan roars and cheers to their leader's decree. You'd gamble your clan away in the hopes I'd agree to this. I have thousands of men ready to fight in my name, the Valar name. Why should I risk it all for your petty deal? Otherwise, you'll just prove my point. How you're just as cowardly as the rest of the highborns. You won't fight your own battles, so you'll have someone else do it for you. So go ahead and prove me right. I'll get your head one way or the other. You can even have a champion fight in your stead. Send as many as you'd like. It won't matter. I'll kill them all, and I'll make sure to have them stare into your eyes once I rip their heads off. I'll show them their last moments in life was fighting for a coward. Go ahead and call us savages, mindless brutes, simple pawns. Before this war began, I despised you highborns. All I've ever seen done by your kind is leech off of us. If I can't burn the likes of your kind from this world, then I'll just settle for the one before me. The clansmen begin an uproar, cheering on the brilliant leader. Naja murmurs to herself while her clan's cheers drown her out. And once I do, not only will this war end, but the Shirkoi will cease to be the grunts of war, but the conquerors of this world. General Pax trails beside Solaire's horse.
Just say the word, my lord. They are the enemy units we scouted for miles. We can crush them in minutes.
The Emperor peers over the cheering clansmen before turning to see his own men and women ready to die for him. He sternly glares off to Naja. If you were ever to take my head in single combat, what fate do you have in store for my men if you succeed?
Sire!
They'll go home to their families, unharmed. You have me at my word. And as will your men if I am to win. Pax grabs Solaire by the arm.
Sir, what are you doing? If you're worried about the casualties, we won't suffer as bad as they will.
The Emperor glares at Pax with a stone expression. Won't suffer, you say? Tell me, General, how often do you walk into the battlefields after a victory and just smell it all in? General's lost for words. I have. All of them. It always smells the same. Rot, piss, and fear. Flashbacks of horrible blood-filled battles flood into the Emperor's mind. The image of impaled horses, decapitated heads, and smashed bodies that bared the Valar crest haunts his mind. If I'm to build onto the Valar name, it won't be off of my men's corpses! The Emperor dismounts his horse, leaving every Imperial troop stunned. He undoes his cape and unsheathes his claymore sword. I accept your challenge! Draw your blade so we can end this quickly! Who said this was a sword fight? I said single-handed combat, didn't I? Naja bears her claws out at him, ready to snatch victory out of the air. Too late to back out with your tail between your legs, your highness! Ha ha! Scylla growls before slamming his sword into the ground and planting it upwards before undoing the heavy parts of armor. General Pax rushes over, baffled and enraged.
My lord, if this is a pride thing, I must say it's not worth it. You can't possibly...
What? Don't think I can beat her?
Pax shoots his eyes back and forth between the Emperor and Naja, noting her massive 7.5 size to Solaire's 6'3". Calculating it all, he fumbles for words.
Don't go breaking every bone in your body this time around. We just restocked our bandages.
No promises!
Oh, shit. Pax leads their horses away as the Emperor strolls forward. Jesus, he's going all the way! Naja stood idly as Solaire approached her in the middle of the clearing, her head held high as a sly smirk snaked its way across her maw. Jesus, he walked right up to her. She reaches out to offer a handshake to the Emperor. Jesus, look at this shit! This is incredible! Solaire darts his eyes back and forth from Naja's eyes and her beefy paw. It was almost too easy to believe at this point, he thought to himself. He slowly reached out and accepted the handshake. He never let his guard down, not even once, but found himself tipping forward as the lioness forcefully snatches him by the forearm. His cold golden eyes stares off with hers as they accept the challenge. He keeps losing his focus as Naja chuckles with morbid glee.
It's so amusing.
Naja softly cackles. Oh, nothing. I wasn't expecting the almighty dragon-blooded Emperor to be so handsome. What? 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 Solaire was taken aback in disbelief at the sudden flirtation Naja was giving him. Even with his knowledge about their tantalizing tactics, he found himself not prepared for it. Already, Naja was enjoying the baffled look on her foe's face. Ha ha. Such a shame. That pretty little head of yours will be on a pike soon after this is done. She purred with a chuckle and reaches down and plucks a stray hair from Solaire's head. Solaire winced and sighed once he takes in her bitter words. He returned the compliment with his own before smirking and looks Naja up and down.
That's one way to claim a trophy. I'm a Plax type of guy myself. Maybe I'll have you have one for your head in my studies once I'm back home. Maybe even one for your rear as well.
Why would you mount an ass? Because you're cat, Mr. Krabs, but still, what the fuck? Nadja's eyes lit with amusement. Oh, you like my ass, do you? Nadja shifts her body to show off her busty rear while her tail flicked about. So I glimpsed at her rear playing along with the banter. A devilish grin etches on Nadja's maw at how easily distracted the Emperor became. Oh, damn! Damn! Holy shit! With a swift heave of her hips, she back swings her powerful leg into Solaire's gut, rocketing him 50 feet into the air. The Sheskarans roar in excitement while the Imperial troops are left paralyzed in horror for their Emperor. Nadja, bathed in the dread of the Imperials, held and jabs it into their pride, pointing and laughing in savage glee. As Solaire begins to fall back, Nadja readies herself and backflipped into the air, connecting her deadly feet to his chest. Damn! The might of her kick projects Solaire back to his troops. With a glorious landing, she faces her men and boasts with her arms held wide, laughing heartedly. She soaks in the praise her men gave her. She spots Magina. I had to think about it for a second. In the crowd and blows her a kiss. Solaire regained himself before hitting the ground, his claws extending outward and dug into the dirt to slow himself before lunging himself forward. Oh shit. Nadja was too distracted with her gloating to notice her men warning her of the Emperor's quick recovery. She turned around, but it was too late to counter the assault. Solaire leaps and connects his fist to her muzzle. As Nadja staggers, Solaire hooks his arm under hers and pulls her down. His ruthless fists whip a flurry of punches into her gut. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Anger swept over Nadja as she shakes off the surprise attack and begins blocking Solaire's fists. She tries to flail him off her arm, but roars out in pain as he sinks his claws into her. Regaining her footing, Nadja grips onto Solaire and slams him to the ground. Each time she clubs him to the ground, small craters were left on impact. Solaire's loosens his grip on her arm and swings his body upward, slamming his plaited boots to her maw. The force of the impact causes the monstrous lioness to stagger back. He quickly distances himself from her. Scuffled up, he growls and holds himself in a readying position for her next attack. Nadja takes a knee while rubbing off her beating. She feels a silent glaze of her men bear down on her, as well as Magina, now rushing to the front to see her mother. While wiping away the nose of blood, she growls, stewing in rage. Nadja slowly rises to her full height before she hunches herself over and begins to pace around the Emperor like a hungry predator. A savage roar erupts from her before she lunges at him. Serpentining in all directions, she leaps into the air and dives her foot towards the Emperor. Solaire hurtles out of the way from the impending force of Nadja's foot, the force alone embedding her leg knee-deep into the ground. He attempts to move in and jab at her neck. He stumbles back in surprise as Nadja kicks her leg out from the ground and with clumps of rocks and dirt jet towards him. The Emperor attempts to dodge out of the way of the debris, but finds the cunning lioness waiting for him. She sideswiping him off his feet with her lengthy legs, leaving him to fall on his back. Nadja hops to her feet and grips the fallen Emperor by the ankles, heaving him over her head and slams him into the ground. In a flurry of blurred movements, she relentlessly slams the Emperor flat against the ground. In his moment of desperation, Solaire found the moment he needed, whilst Nadja brings him over her head for another slam. Quickly, he dug his claws into the back of her head. Nadja cringes with pain. In the brief second, he forced his right leg free and knees her in the snout. He jerks his left leg free and embeds it deep into her shoulder. Using her using her as footing, he swings back and in the right leg kicks her squarely under the jaw. He takes the opportunity from her dazed state to jump above her and elbows her in the dead center of her forehead. The force of the impact brings her to her knees. By the time Nadja recovers, Solaire uppercuts her and delivers a powerful kick to her chest. Nadja braces herself across the ground and is on hands and knees, gasping for air. Solaire pants heavily as he cracks his neck. He glares down beside Nadja with his claws extended and fangs barred out.
Do you understand why I'm the Emperor now? Stay down, and I might just spare you.
Under her panting body, a crooked grin spreads across Nadja's maw. Her tail snags around Solaire's ankle. With all her strength, she tumbles over and uses her momentum to fling him over her, slamming him face down into the ground. She pounces at him, rolling him onto his back and pins him down with her own weight. Her sadistic snarl slings into Nadja's face. A sadistic snarl sinks into Nadja's face as she sees the confidence in Solaire's golden eyes start to fade. A flurry of punches bops across his face between every venomous word.
You fucking highborns! Always claiming the victories when you never have earned it!
Nadja's eyes start to fog over with rage as she stops seeing the Emperor, but all the kings and queens she's pledged herself to between each punch. Nadja extends her claws out and swings them down to the Emperor's neck. A savage snarl ruptures from her and as Solaire holds back her wrists with all his might. Tears start to build up as her eyes flood with rage.
The world would be better off without your filth!
Nadja pulls herself back, baring her fangs as she plunges herself towards Solaire's neck. Solaire spots her plan and quickly counters by headbutting her nose. The impact of the headbutt knocks Nadja out of her raging haze. Hissing at the pain on her nose, she feels her weight shift with the Emperor rolling her over onto her back. Solaire quickly slams his knee across her neck and attempts to pin her by her wrist.
And allow brutes like you to prey on the rest of the world?
The Lion Emperor forces more of his weight down onto the Lioness's neck to choke her out.
I'd rather chop off my own tail before I see that!
Keeping a deadlocked gaze on Nadja, Solaire failed to see her flexible legs arched forward and snare him by the neck. Using all of her core strength, Nadja flings the Emperor off of her neck and several feet away from her. Booty shot. Both lions stride to their feet, each pace around each other with a malevolent glares thrown to each side. The roar of clansmen and Imperial troops cheering for their leaders rumbles the forest. The pulsating tension builds as each fighter waits for the next move. Nadja glares down at the highborn lion. The focus breaks as she feels a warm sensation dripping from her ear. She reaches over to find her own blood. An amused smile curls past her lips as she chuckles to herself. I'm gonna enjoy every last second of this. Oh, there we go! Oh, damn! That's the shot right there! That's the fucking... Oh my god! Both lions stare off at each other before bursting forward, not just busting forward. Bursting forward, roaring at the top of their lungs as they collide once more. Hours fly by throughout the day as the horrendous brawl went on. Both lions continued their skirmish, battering and countering each other's blows. The thunderous roars of the fellow men shook the very ground beneath them. Solaire attempted to jab a southpaw into Nadja's gut, but was swiftly flung away and coiled up in her bloodied fur. With the prey in sight, Nadja swings her fist dead center of the Emperor's armored chest. Thug. The force of the impact hurtles Solaire a great distance away from Nadja. He lands on his feet, however, but clutches his chest whilst gasping for air. The pure power of Nadja's attack disfigured his armor with a massive fist indented into it. Grunting in pain, the mighty lioness grimaced while trying to get his armor off. To his dread, he felt the weight of his foe bear down on his shoulder. Nadja pulled at his shoulder and cooed. "Oh, too snug." A toothy grin spreads across her maw. "Allow me!" The towering lioness pins the Emperor down by his shoulder with only her right paw before sinking the claws of her left paw into his breastplate. In a disturbing melody of metal and leather crying out, Nadja tore open the front of the Solaire's armor. Nadja was absorbed in the miniature victory over the Emperor, but in her high, she failed to notice that Solaire swiftly took strands of his chainmail and whipped it across her face. Shrapnels of the armor's plate was still latched onto the chainmail, added a nasty cut to Nadja's cheek. Solaire staggers back, finally feeling the relief of his armor lifted from him. He rubbed his exposed chest to catch his breath, but Nadja won't allow it. She dashed over and swung her elbow out and bashes it across Solaire's muzzle. Like a hungry snake, she wraps her arm around his arm where he held his makeshift whip. She used the weight and momentum of her assault to fling the Emperor to his back. "I thought we agreed, no weapons!" She shakes his wrist violently before he lets the chainmail go. "Good boy." She holsts him up by the waist and dangles him to her eye level. Solaire throws a weak glare over at her whilst panting painfully in the air, hugging his ribs. Nadja's savage snarl slowly churns into a mischievous grin as she muses at the Emperor's exposed body. His bronze fur glistened in the sun, covering over his impeccable muscles. Numerous scars were scattered all over his body, yet hardly hindered the value of his beauty. Ah, what a vile thing to behold on a highborn, body scarred up from this dreary war. I am sure you must hate for others to see your precious fur all ruined, huh? Nadja brushes her fingers across Solaire's scars, both amused and amazed at how toned his muscles felt through his soft fur.
I see it more as a trophy collection from death.
The Emperor throws an uppercut towards Nadja's maw, but he finds his reach far from her now as she dangles him away from her. Then by all means, let me add this to your collection. She extends her claws out with a savage roar, and Nadja cleaves her talons over the Lion's Emperor's abs. Her malicious eyes held on his, eager to see the pain erupt from the highborn. He merely flinched at her attack. Puzzled, Nadja looked down at her claws and found no blood, only clumps of fur were on her talons. She looked at his abs and gawked, seeing no damage was done to his flesh aside from the streaks of fur. What the... With the lioness baffled, the stoic Lion Emperor gripped onto the arm as she dangled him from and swung himself up. His heel spring forward and bashes into her muzzle. She lets him go and cups her aching maw. He takes advantage of the confused lioness and creates a distance from her. Nadja, snarling with bitter pain, stares down at the Emperor. His breathing finally returns to normal. A tantalizing grin pulls across his muzzle. Chuckling softly to the baffled lioness, he runs his fingers across his fur where she tried to tear into.
Special blood, my dear.
The Emperor throws a petty wink at Nadja.
Guess the folk tales were true. You really do have dragon blood in you.
There's always some truth to tales, I suppose, and I am no exception.
Makes better sense, at least. To a normal person, your head should have been caved in by now.
Are you now realizing just how doomed you are? How this petty fight is a lost cause?
Nadja cackles with a cynical grin. No, not at all! I just have to stop playing with my food is all. Nadja lunges forward, using the strength of all her limbs to dash towards Solaire at full speed.
Fine. Fall like the rest.
Solaire maps out his attack. He readied himself for a lunge from her. He would use her own momentum against her and grapple her to the ground. He waited patiently for her to outstretch her mighty arms to do so. Nadja does exactly as he planned. Her arms reached out for him, but stops dead in her tracks and snatches onto a wrist instead, sinking her fangs into his bicep. His skin was hard as rocks. Nadja, however, was drunk with rage. Her carnivorous fangs pierced into the Emperor's flesh. Shocked at her bizarre tactics, Solaire recoiled in pain as he started to bleed out. An agonizing roar erupted out of him. Rah! The conflict continues into the night. Both Imperials and clansmen erupt with cheer every time the battle would fall to their side. Within the Imperial encampment, General Pax oversees preparations for his men. He dismisses his war council as the Blue Falcon King Samuel lands beside him.
Your Majesty.
General, my men have relayed the situation to all of our captains within the area as instructed. We've also set up more decoy camps to throw the enemy off, as well as...
A roaring applause breaks through Samuel's conversation. He jerks his head to where it's coming from. He stammers with complete awe. Is he still fighting with that beast? The Falcon is taken back at the unruly sight of the Lion Emperor putting the massive lioness into a headlock. The general sighs and nods.
I think he met his match in terms of stubbornness. Neither of them show signs of fatigue yet.
But why, though?
With what he's capable of, like I said, he's stubborn like this.
The king looks at him in disbelief.
Naja, the beast you see there, was boasting about honor constantly to him. She must have struck something in him to go along with this.
Samuel exhausts a long-winded sigh. We're gonna be here all night, aren't we?
If you're worried about an ambush, we had patrols on every side of our camp.
Pax points his cane towards the Shirkoi war party. Shirkoi.
So far, they haven't moved at all since the fight began. Lieutenant Morn has been keeping tabs with his forces surveying the fight. So far, no one has intervened in the fight.
Oh, lovely. We're wasting time and resources, but saving face with a bunch of savages. We're going to kill them if the worst were to happen, yes? Pax scoffs out a laugh.
You don't have faith in our Emperor.
Oh, I've had faith in that bastard since we were children, but I'm sure the rest of the Empire would react the same as I if he loses. The war might as well be at an end if these savages return home unscathed. The Valar legacy will be dirt to the common folk. The general nods at the king's statement. His talons tap across his cane, deep in thought.
Yes, well, there's a fresh batch of tea in his tent if you want any. Otherwise, take a seat while history gets made.
Samuel peers over the general in silence, his blue feathers ruffle up before sighing. I suppose this is the safest place to be out of the front lines, anyway. He points up to the Emperor's tent. If he's not using it right now, I'll sleep at his bed tonight.
I should advise you, he's been shedding during our travels. Just to let you know.
The king rolls his eyes as he has his head tips up. I'll be sure to leave a feather or two for him in return, then. The king and general part ways for the night, leaving Pax to observe the fight from afar. Night sweeps over the land with a roaring crowd slowly dying out. Day breaks into the morning sky and awakens the slumbering masses. Lieutenant Morn staggers out of his tent, yawning and rubbing the sleep from his eyes. And what has come about in the morning times, we shall find out in the next episode. This one's already been long enough. I know the fight's not over, but 50 fucking minutes. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of Regal Tales. On the next one, we'll continue to see what happens with this fight, see who wins, who loses, whatever the fuck. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I have been the trained unprofessional speaker for the voices in my head when I say, fare thee well. Bye, everyone!